welcome back to the most unprofessional sports podcast in the world. Welcome back to Swivel Chair Sports. I'm your host, Zach Circleberg Burkle. Here's my co-host today, Aaron. Go ahead and say hi, Aaron.
Hi, Aaron.
All right, so in today's episode, we'll be going over our power rankings after Week 12 of the NFL season, going through our teams from 10 all the way up to our who we think is our best team in the league. But we'll be starting off with an honorable mention. So, in honor of our honorable mention, please make sure to like and subscribe to this video. Other than that, let's go ahead and get into it. So, for my honorable mention, I'm going to go with the Indianapolis Colts on a 3-game winning streak right now. They're kind of the team I consider to be the 11th best in the league at this moment. They've really been on a tear as of late. Gardner Minshew seems to have brought Minshew Mania up to Indianapolis. So yeah, that's who I got as my honorable mention. Go Colts.
If you watched our AFC wildcard video, you would know that Burke and I kind of have a disagreement about a certain wildcard spot in a division, and that would be he obviously likes the Colts, and my honorable mention is the Houston Texans.
Oh, you have them as honorable mention.
Yeah,
that's cute. That's cute.
Yeah, I just think they're a better team. Got the
I agree.
Better quarterback.
I agree.
And you have them somewhere on this. Oh my gosh, you have them in the top 10. Okay, well, I guess let's get into it. Your list might be a little wild here.
I agree. I agree with every point you just made. The Texans are a better team than the Indianapolis Colts. They have a better quarterback. They probably have the better coach. They have the better offensive unit. That's why I have them at the number 10 spot.
Okay. I'm not gonna lie, I did not see that coming. Well, who did you leave out? Oh, I know who you left out. Okay. I won't say it, but I think I know who you left out.
Okay, yeah, you'll find out. We'll find out for sure. But yeah, Texans, my number 10 team. I think they've really shown a lot of gumption. A lot of gumption.
Can I make a prediction?
Yeah, go for it.
I think it's the Steelers. I think you left out the Steelers.
Yeah, I did leave out the Steelers. There might be other teams I left out that you're not thinking of though.
Okay, that's kind of concerning. We're doing snake.
Yeah, no, 10. Yeah, you're 10 spot.
Yeah, 10 and 9 though. What? Okay. My number 10, the Cleveland Browns. Drop a tough one to the Broncos, but they still got that really good defense. And you don't understand the Browns, do you?
Just go ahead.
Yeah, I've got the Browns, but like I said, they've got that really strong defensive unit, despite Deshaun Watson going out for the rest of the season. And then,
what?
Did you forget about the Browns?
I didn't forget about them.
Okay. My number 9 slot, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Their first game without Canada, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe it was their first.
First game without Matt Canada. 400 yards total offense, which is a step in the right direction. Granted, you'd hope they'd put up a few more points, but I think that's just they're gonna do that a little bit more. Considering the strides they made last week against the Bengals, and they got what should be a nice little kind of bye-ish weeks coming up facing the Cardinals and Patriots. So yeah, I've got the Steelers at 9.
Yeah, I'll explain why in a second. But my number 9 spot is, in fact, the red hot Denver Broncos. they're playing better than any other team in the NFL right now. They have the longest winning streak, tied for the longest winning streak.
Any other team in the NFL right now?
Other than the Philadelphia Eagles, who they have the same length of a winning streak as right now. They both have 5-game winning streaks. I don't know what you want me to tell you. The Broncos have been on a roll. I think Sean Payton finally has figured out how to coach this team. It took him about half a season, but I think he finally figured it out. This defense has gotten better every single week. The offense has been pretty consistently decent all season long. And they've been heading in the right direction ever since the Chiefs game. So you could even say they've been heading in the right direction since after the end of the first Chiefs game, which they lost. But they haven't lost since then. So that's part of the reason I have Denver at my number 9 spot. The reason I don't have the Browns or the Steelers at all is simply because I don't trust the quarterback play of either of those two teams. I don't think Kenny Pickett's very good, and I don't think Dorian Thompson-Robinson or P.J. Walker is very good. I think Russell Wilson's better than both of them, and I think the defense for the Broncos is better than the Browns' offense or the Steelers' offense. And the Broncos' offense is almost as good as the Browns' defense and just as good as the Steelers' defense.
You're telling me that the Broncos have a top 3 offense in the league. That's essentially what you're saying, because the Browns have a top 3 defense.
Right now? Right now, they might. $29 points, 21 points, 24 points, 24 points. Not bad.
Not bad. Not top 3.
Not top 3. You're probably right. I said almost as good. I didn't say as good. I said they're probably as good as the Steelers. What are the Steelers? Like a slightly above average? Steelers defense? Yeah, Steelers defense. They're like what, slightly
Their
above average?
defense won them like 3 games by themselves this year.
Yeah, and so is the Broncos offense with Cortland Sutton catches specifically.
I wholeheartedly agree. I think it's disgusting and I want to puke, but
You have the Broncos at 8?
yeah.
Oh, what?
Wait, what?
Wait, what?
Did you say I have the
Oh,
Broncos?
9. Sorry. You don't have the Broncos? You said you wholeheartedly agree.
I don't.
Did
No.
you? You said disagree?
No. Disagree.
Oh, I heard agree.
I disagree and I want to puke.
I heard agree, and I want to puke. Well, we'll just agree to disagree then. I think the Broncos are good. I think the Broncos are good. And if the Broncos are good, that means the Chiefs lost to them doesn't look so bad.
Why do I feel like this is all a ploy just to say that? Just so you can find a way to put the Chiefs at the number 1.
I don't have them at number 1, although that's not a bad idea. No. Moving on to my number 8 spot, I do have the Miami Dolphins. They just haven't quite shown me enough to be ahead of any of those other 7 teams that I'm about to mention. But they're clear cut better than anybody outside of the top 8, if that makes sense. There's a huge gap between 8 and 9, but I also think there's a huge gap between 8 and 7.
Okay.
So.
My 8, I have the Detroit Lions. I just don't have enough faith in Jared Goff. He's overrated. He's good with a good, run game, but I don't think that he can go out and consistently win them games that he needs to.
Yeah.
He kind of showed that against the Bears. He had three picks, and they ended up winning late because the Bears are kind of inept. So that should be another loss on their schedule. Yeah, but I do like their defense. It's solid. I think they're serviceable. That's why I've got them at 8. But I would have them higher had I had more faith in their quarterback. And then my number 7 would be the Dolphins. I really like how they've looked as of late. Defense is coming around. Offense is obviously humming. So, yeah, I've got the Dolphins at 7.
So I actually have the Lions at 7. And I mentioned that I thought there was a big gap between the 8 and 7 spot. The reason being is I actually have more faith that the Lions' offense is going to figure it out. Turnovers is easy to prevent, you know?
Tell that to Josh Allen.
Just don't throw the ball. That's true. But no, it's pretty simple, Jared. Just don't throw it to the other team, and you won't turn the ball over. So yeah, I think the Lions will figure out their turnover issues. They really hadn't had any up until the last few weeks, so I think that'll correct itself. I think they're in a little bit of a slump offensively, but their defense is obviously still really solid, and I think they can kind of keep them afloat if that offense does continue to struggle until the offense finds its footing.
Hutch needs help. He needs somebody else to take some attention away
Yeah,
on the D line.
yeah. My number 6 spot, I have the Dallas Cowboys. You could argue they could be higher. I thought about putting them maybe a couple spots higher at the 4 spot because I do actually really like them right now, but I just can't trust them come playoff time, and that's really the only thing that's holding me back from putting them higher is that playoff reputation that they have. But the offense has been playing at an amazing rate. The defense has also been playing at an amazing rate. Bland, the cornerback that's kind of stepped in since the Diggs injury, set a record for pick sixes in a season. So he's obviously having an incredible year. So yeah, that's kind of why I have the Dallas Cowboys at 6. And you could argue they should be higher, but I just don't trust them come playoff time.
At 6, I've got the Jacksonville Jaguars. They really took control of their division with this win this last weekend over the Texans. You look at their schedule; they're beating the teams that they should. Their only losses are to the 49ers, the Chiefs, and then the Texans, who obviously I had my honorable mention, and you had your 10 seed, who are on the come up this year, surprisingly. So.
Yeah.
I like their offense. Trevor Lawrence's been playing really well. Yeah, I got them at my 6. And then 5, I have the Cowboys. My top 5 was just a nightmare to kind of put in order here because they're all really solid teams. But
Yeah.
I've got them at 5 purely because they had an absolute stinker against the 49ers. They lost to the Cardinals early on in the season. And then they arguably should have won that Eagles game. But the Cowboys are going to Cowboy. Dak Prescott's going to Dak Prescott. He's going to lose some games they necessarily shouldn't. But they do have a really good offense when they can run ball in a stifling defense. So I've got them at 5.
Yeah. So I mentioned that the Cowboys could have been maybe a couple spots ahead on mine than where I had them. And you'll see why as I mention these next 2. So first at the 5 spot, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars. As you kind of mentioned, having them at the 6 spot earlier. Them and the Cowboys have very similar issues. They both kind of... You don't know if they're able to win those games against tough opponents. That's been the Jaguars' problem this year, is that anytime they play like a legitimate opponent, they lose. The Chiefs, one of the Texans games, and then the 49ers. And 2 out of those 3, you could even argue all 3, weren't really close. But at the same time, they have moments where you feel like the Jaguars are ready to take that next step into the premier tier of teams in the NFL, you could say. And then at the number 4 spot, I have the Baltimore Ravens, another team that At times, you're not sure if they're actually a legitimate contender. Other times, you have no doubt in your mind because that Lamar Jackson and that offense is just ridiculous at times, and then that defense is also really, really solid. So, they're obviously more consistent than the Jaguars are. That's why I had them ahead of them. And then I think there's a little less evidence that Lamar's not capable in the playoffs than there is of Dak Prescott. That's why I had them ahead of the Cowboys. Um, Lamar hasn't been successful in the playoffs, but we also haven't seen him very often. Dak Prescott, on the other hand, we have seen in the playoffs a lot, and time again, he comes up short. So that's kind of the reason I have the Ravens over them as well. But I think it's kind of those three teams, in my opinion, you could kind of alternate anywhere 4 through 6.
Um, yeah, just kind of thinking about it, I just kind of had a last second change of heart. I have the Ravens at 4. I originally had the 49ers at 4. Purely because of the fact that I have more faith in Lamar Jackson to be able to go out and win the Ravens a game than I do Brock Purdy
That's fair.
to go out and win the 49ers game. But I think the 49ers are just so stacked
Yeah.
everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
They're just such a good team that I can't quite justify the difference between Lamar Jackson and Brock Purdy. So I think I've got to have the Ravens at 4 and the 49ers at 3.
Yeah. My 3 is also the 49ers. Kind of a lot of the points you mentioned right there are the same for me. Yeah, I trust Lamar Jackson more than I do Brock Purdy. But the Niners' overall team, the weapons Purdy has, along with that defense, ridiculous. I mean, you always got to think, they got Chase Young over there now, which is absurd, opposite Nick Bosa. On the
John
offensive side,
Hargrave pick up in the offseason.
yeah, on the offensive side, you got Trent Williams, Debo Samuel, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey. Thank you, I forgot his name for a second. Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk. I mean, you got weapons on weapons on weapons. You could put me back there, and I could win you a playoff game in San Francisco. I mean, for goodness sakes. Yeah, that team, they just have so many weapons. It's hard for me to justify putting a team like the Ravens or the Jaguars or the Cowboys ahead of them, especially because the Niners beat the absolute living crap out of the Cowboys earlier this year and the Jaguars earlier this year. Yeah, Niners my number 3 team. Number 2, I've got the Kansas City Chiefs. As well as they played after the first quarter, at least this past week, the Eagles also played really well. So I'll spoil my number 1 team here real quick and say it's the Eagles. But the Chiefs, they just...
I mean, we all knew it was coming.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know who else it would be. The Tennessee Titans, maybe. But... yeah, the Chiefs. I mean, regardless. I mean, even though they put up 31 to the Raiders 3 after going down 14-0, there's still some questions that you have about that Chiefs offense. The defense, maybe not so much, but are the Chiefs gonna be smart on offense? I think is part of the question. Like, will they give Pacheco the touches he needs to be successful? Will they involve Rashee Rice more in the passing game? Those are all questions that we kind of need to see the answer to before we can crown the Chiefs as the best team in the league again. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I too have the Chiefs at 2 and Eagles at 1. I think the Chiefs and 49ers defenses are very comparable, both very solid overall. I think the Chiefs offense is capable of kind of being up there in that top tier if they can hold on to the ball and catch it.
Yeah.
I think Rashee Rice is really coming into his own, and it only takes one game for Kelsey to, get back in his groove. He did have a big game against the Raiders there last week. But yeah, the Eagles just keep winning, and no matter how they're winning, it's been ugly these last few weeks, but they're still finding ways.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean the Eagles. They just know how to win games. That's why I have them at my number one as well. 10-1. Um, they're beating good teams too. I mean, yeah, they're barely beating good teams, but they're beating good teams. Cowboys, Bills, Chiefs, back to back to back. That's impressive. Regardless of what the scores were of those three games, that's an impressive stretch of wins. So, hats off to them. They are currently my number one as well. Obviously, um, yeah, really nothing else to say. I mean, they're the best team in the league right now. Um, we'll see what happens after this week. Maybe if the Niners kind of take it to them, that changes our both of our minds. Uh, I think the big thing that's going to be interesting to see is will the Niners jump the Chiefs and the Eagles, or will the Chiefs just go back up to the number one spot after this week? Because if the Niners beat the Eagles, the Chiefs didn't. It's kind of like a what do you do there? But unless you have anything else, Aaron, I think that'll wrap it up for this video of most unprofessional sports channel on YouTube, Swivel Chair Sports. I've been your host, Zach Circleberg Burkle, here with my host today, Aaron. Go ahead and say bye, Aaron.
Bye, Aaron.
All right. That'll do it. Deuces.